Michael Kopech is thriving on the Los Angeles Dodgers while Miguel Vargas struggles for the Chicago White Sox. That three-team deadline trade continues to look worse and worse by the day for the Sox. Let's discuss why next on Locked On White Sox.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And hello, I'm your host, Todd Welter, a lifelong Sox fan and the site expert of Southside Showdown, part of the Fansided Network. You can check out my written content at SouthsideShowdown.com, and also I've covered Major League Baseball for outlets such as the Associated Press. And thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox. Also follow or subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Well, I was pro trading Michael Kopech, but I was not a huge fan of him being bundled with Erick Fedde and Tommy Pham in what is looking to be a terrible deadline trade for the White Sox, and I'll discuss why in the first segment. Then the White Sox proved how they are the unofficial get-right team of MLB in last night's defeat to the San Francisco Giants. I'll explain how the Giants seemed primed to pick up two more victories in the second segment. And finally, the Sox made a roster move, but the wrong player got moved off the 26-man roster. And now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, first, I know it is still early in Miguel Vargas' tenure with the White Sox, and the same can be said with Kopech with the Dodgers. But the issue is the Sox really could have used an immediate impact player, especially for some hope that things will get better and especially get better soon. But Vargas keeps representing the misery of this season and the trajectory of this franchise when it comes to the offense, meaning it's going to be a while before things get better. And it may seem really early to grade out the three-team deadline deal GM Chris Getz made with the St. Louis Cardinals that sent Tommy Pham and Erick Fedde there, and Michael Kopech to the Los Angeles Dodgers in return for Vargas and two other A-ball players. But every day that Vargas continues to look lost at the plate and Kopech looks nearly unhittable on the mound is another data point that the Dodgers fleeced everyone, and I mean everyone, in that deal. In the 3 weeks since Vargas came over, he has looked lost at the plate and even worse on the field. Kopech looks like the second coming of Dennis Eckersley. And everyone thought that the Cardinals won the deal since they got two big league players and didn't have to send the Sox anything. Well, it turns out they're not getting the early returns that they would have liked. And the way Vargas has been so bad lately, it reinforces how a lot of Getz's peers were questioning the return he got for his best asset in Fedde, and why it might not have been smart to put Kopech in that deal. I mean, it really has opened him up for being second guessed. But then again, getting the job when your owner doesn't interview anybody leaves you for second guessing every single time. So I'll admit, I was definitely get Kopech up out of here. And Cornholio may still show up on the LA Dodgers mound in September. And if you're wondering why I'm calling him Cornholio, Bernstein and Holmes, that's what they call him because, yeah, he can get very, throw the ball harder, I love how Dan Bernstein did point that out. You know, I know not many people say I love how Dan Bernstein pointed that out, but you know, Kopech just was like on a sugar rush every time he was on the mound, trying to throw the ball harder and harder and harder. But this is a guy who has looked dominant, since he's gone over to the Dodgers. And he was looking dominant at times with the Sox. You know, he's had 9 and 1, he's pitched 9 1/3 innings. And right now he's allowed just one hit, walked 1, struck out 13, has a .21 whip, 2 saves and 14 and 4 holds for the Dodgers. And I know it's 9 1/3 innings, but the man has just been nearly unhittable. And after blowing a save on July 7th for the Sox, and then he switched agents to Scott Boras, Kopech has actually allowed 2 hits, 1 with the Sox, and walked 2, 1 with the Sox. You know, so no one can touch him right now. And he moved into the closer role for the Dodgers. And seeing what the relievers yielded in the trade market, The Sox missed a huge opportunity, especially with Kopech pitching better before the deadline. I mean, think about it. The Marlins received the Padres' second best prospect for Tanner Scott. And Kopech, again, being on the upswing, it's a huge missed opportunity to get a better asset. Because you could have traded Fedde and Pham to the Cardinals on your own and got some Cardinals prospects. Although Pham, and again, Pham, he was going to have to be bundled with somebody, since he was always going to yield a scratch-off prospect. But Fedde and Kopech could have yielded against some extra players and more than just one former top 50 prospect who already failed in his first big league tryout, and two high-risk, high-reward prospects, one which has a broken leg. And again, hindsight is always going to be 20/20, and Kopech can always he can always go back to being that hyper dude on the mound who ignores his pitch plan and just throws harder and harder. You and I have seen it. It can happen. But what makes things tough to watch is when it comes to Kopech, is Miguel Vargas has just been so awful. That's what makes it hard to see Kopech thriving. And again, I know it's just 9 innings, but it's been 9 dominant innings, and he was under club control. You could have traded Kopech in the offseason. But Miguel Vargas has just been so awful. The crown jewel of the Sox return has looked worse than Lenyn Sosa did in his first couple of cups of coffee with the team. And I mean, I'm talking Braden Shoemake bad. I mean, I'm talking about if this was April, Vargas would already be in AAA. And look, you can have a positive spin. I saw this on Twitter from this guy at Rhino_on. This is what he tweets. White Sox fans, how about giving Miguel Vargas some time before tossing him to the side? Now, of course, Kopech is a Hall of Famer who we could have gotten much better for. No, they couldn't. He was a middle reliever with a 5 ERA. Okay, that ignores, first of all, that Kopech was still valued in the trade market for his velocity, and he was pitching much better before the deadline. And again, just 1 hit and 1 walk before he was traded to the Dodgers. That's a 2-week time span where he had an immaculate inning. People were not able to hit off of him after July 7th. You would think you could get more than just basically being a throw-in. Heck, the Sox got Nick Nastorini and Jordan Leisure for Lance Lynn last year, and when he was traded, he had an ERA over 6. Now, granted, starting pitching versus relief pitching, is usually going to yield different returns. But if we're going off of ERAs, you still got something good for Lance Lynn. Anyways, Vargas is looking like a 4A player. I think that's the biggest frustration here. He can rake at AAA, but he can't hit at the big leagues. He is 5 for 52 with 1 home run and 1 double in the 15 games he's played for the Sox. His slash line in his 15 games, 096, 096, 213, 173. And he's not even close to his Fangraphs WRC Plus projections of 105. He's at 72. And you can tell he's pressing. In 30 games with the Dodgers this year, he had 16 strikeouts. He already has 17 in a Sox uniform. Now, maybe going from one of the best franchises in baseball to one of the absolute worst, actually not one of the absolute worst franchise, might be messing with him. But still, he is struggling to hit velocity, and he has struggled to hit velocity during his brief major league tenure. He has a 193 average against fastballs and a 23.3 whiff rate, according to Baseball Savant, and he has a 21.7 put-away rate. That's the pitch that is getting him usually to strike out, is a fastball. And it's not like he's facing these crazy heaters all the time. The average fastball velocity he's facing, according to Fangraphs, is 93.8. Major League Baseball hitters should be able to square up velocity. Why do you think Michael Kopech was having all those issues with the Sox earlier in the season? They knew he was just going to throw harder and harder and harder. So what do you just got to do? Sit on it, try to square it up. He's hitting 156 against breaking balls and 125 against off speed, but the put away percentages on there are low. And he is facing fastballs 61.6% of the time. And why the Sox keep going with guys who struggle to hit heat is beyond me. Colson Montgomery, the team's prize prospect, he has the same issue, and he's at AAA. I guess my whole complaint is the Sox had a decent trade asset in Kopech and a very good one in Fedde, and leveraged it into a guy who is a very flawed hitter. And his biggest flaw is something that the franchise doesn't seem to help players overcome. Still a ton of potential, but Getz thought Vargas needed some runway. That's what he said. Well, we think he's going to be a very talented player. He just needs more runway. The Dodgers gave him 2 months last year to try to be their starting second baseman, and he failed. And I'm not even going to cover his terrible defense. Well, okay, I will. He's already been scrapped as an outfielder, and he's now at third base, and he's got -4 outs above average. So you're not getting any fielding added value, and you're getting nothing at the plate. And you needed an impact player out of these deals. And so far, you've gotten a bad baseball player who's probably just going to be nothing more than a 4A player. Now, Jarrell Perez and Alexander Albertus, they may turn into big good league ball players someday. I know James Fegan of Sox Machine tweeted out high praise for Perez when he saw him over the weekend. But they are years away. Well, at least one consolation prize is the Cardinals, who everyone thought won the deal. They're not getting a lot out of it. Tommy Pham has cooled off big time at the plate. Fetty has looked lost without Brian Bannister. And the Cardinals have fallen way out of the NL Central division race. But still, it's tough to see Michael Kopech not only thrive, but look like the pitcher we hoped he would always be. And the return that the Sox got is a guy who might not be able to play in the big leagues. He might be nothing more than a utility player. Well, the Giants, they're in the thick of the NL wildcard race. They had lost 5 of their past 7 games, but the schedule shined favor on them in their pursuit of catching the Atlanta Braves with this 3-game series against the Sox. And I'll discuss the Giants' hopes to take advantage of the lowly White Sox and how the Southsiders were the get-right team for San Fran on the other side of the break. Next on Locked On White Sox. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you now. Through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. And if you're done playing the White Sox outside of fading them anytime they have a lead, then FanDuel has some future props on the Bears worth throwing $5 on. Plus 250 for Caleb Williams to have 5 or more rushing touchdowns. And a fun one to try out is plus 1,400 for the Bears to score a field goal in every game. The Caleb one seems more realistic. Cairo Santos kicking a field goal in every game, hey, just gives you an added element to root for every game. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sports book. And thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen today. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On MLB podcast. Host Paul Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully, is here to provide daily national expertise with his trademark humor to help you get ready for the MLB playoffs here in the dog days of summer. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day on Locked On MLB, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And the Sox meet up with the San Francisco Giants for Game 2 of a 3-game set. First pitch is at 8:45 p.m. Central Standard Time. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. Sorry about that. Again, if you listen to yesterday's show, I've been battling COVID. I'm starting to feel more and more functional, but, sometimes talking, you're like, that can still happen. And welcome back to Locked On White Sox. I am your host, Todd Welter. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox. Also follow or subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Well, the White Sox proved yet again they are the unofficial get-right team of MLB. The Giants came into last night's contest at 63-63. They had just split a series with the crosstown rival A's. They had lost 3 of 4 from the Braves before that. And while the Sox have played well in the city by the Bay, the Giants did not get that version of the White Sox. Instead, they got what you and I have been seeing all year. The Sox left runners on base all game and faced a pitcher in Kyle Harrison who did not have his best stuff, and yet the Sox got 1 run off of him. 1. And a big reason the Sox are 30-96 this season is they never seem to run into a pitcher who has his less than ideal stuff. And if they do, they rarely capitalize. Third inning, Sox got bases loaded, and Lenyn Sosa batting leadoff. I don't know why he was batting leadoff. Like, that was the first time where I looked at a Grady Sizemore lineup, and I was like, really? You're going to have Sosa bat leadoff, huh? I don't know what the data's telling you, but okay, go with God. But of course, Sosa strikes out. Luis Robert Jr. grounds it to a double play. Threat over. No runs. Fourth inning, 2 runners on to start the inning, and 3 straight outs. At least the 5th inning, Robert Jr. did drive in Brooks Baldwin. But that's all the Sox got. That's all they got off of Harrison, who didn't really have his best stuff. The Sox were able to get some hits on him. And you know what happened? 1 run. In the bottom of the 5th, things unraveled for Jonathan Cannon as he gave up 4 runs, and then he gave up another run, a homer to Mark Chapman in the 6th. And it's pretty much game from there. As well, hey, Grady's boys don't quit because they did get 2 more runs off the Giants bullpen. They don't come back to win either. That's another reason why this team, other teams, just 1 second here. I got a coughing attack coming on, folks. Hold on. That's another reason teams can feel confident that the Sox are a get-right team for them, as they rarely come back late in the game. According to Baseball Reference, the Sox have just 10 comeback wins that you can categorize as a true comeback win. They have 1 walk-off win. The haters, Andrew Benintendi home run. That's it. And the largest comeback the Sox have had from being down is 3. 3 runs. You put the Sox down after 6 innings, you pretty much have a victory. The Giants are now 3.5 back of the Braves for the final wild card spot. And if you're the Braves, who play the Phillies now, and the Mets, who are playing Baltimore and are 1.5 back of the Braves, you can't be too pleased that the Giants have the Sox on their schedule. And heck, the Giants TV broadcast started with San Francisco hopes to take advantage of the Sox being so bad. That is it's pretty much how it started. It wasn't exactly word for word, but even the television announcers were like, yep, this is where the Giants get right. This is where the Giants can get to 66 and 63. We're getting 3 wins here. And this team has talked about, despite being out of the playoffs, they can still have a say in the matter with the schedule they have left. Well, their say is, to any contender, we'll help you get to October. We're going to be that get-right team for you. Now, there's 2 more games left for the Southsiders to change the narrative. And Davis Martin, he goes tonight, and he's been pitching really well, especially since he's added that changeup, I believe, and that cutter. And hopefully he can give the Sox a chance to win again. But you would just like to see the Sox either get runners across. They were 3 for 13 with runners in scoring position. And you'd like to see, even if the Sox get down, maybe rally back and win. Make it tough for these contenders now. Don't just give them a red carpet to October. That's about all you can ask for right now. Anyways, 2 more games left as the Sox, to maybe see if the Sox can finally win a series. They've lost 13 straight series. Again, that's another reason why, if you're the Giants, you're like, man, get right time. Here we go. Well, the Sox, they made a bullpen roster move, and, well, the wrong guy got taken off the 26-man roster, and I'll discuss why next on Locked On White Sox. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, and unlike other apps, on PrizePicks it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch those winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the PrizePicks community today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. And maybe you're ready to move on from baseball season after this rough 2024 White Sox season. And if you're ready for Bears season and the NFL, PrizePicks has an amazing deal when it comes to Caleb Williams. 1 Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on PrizePicks every week in September. That's right. Only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss this deal on PrizePicks because it's gone when September ends. And again, PrizePicks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including Illinois, Wisconsin, and Indiana. I always tell you about my buddy who lives behind the Cheddar Curtain, loves using PrizePicks to make his selections on NFL Sundays because of its availability there. And I think it's great for how easy it is to use. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, run your game. And the White Sox meet up with the San Francisco Giants for Game 2 of a 3-game series. Tonight, first pitch is at 8:45 p.m. Central. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. And welcome back into Locked On White Sox. Again, I'm your host, Todd Welter. And again, thank you for sticking with me this long. Shout out to all you everydayers. I've changed I got a new camera stand, so I'm changing the camera position. So if you're watching on YouTube and you're like, again, why can't he get his eyes on there? Still getting used to it. Still adjusting. All that stuff. Programming note for this week. On Tap Sportsnet's Besnik Zekaricki. I'm going to have to get his pronunciation. He'll be on Thursday to go over the last couple of weeks of all the happenings with the Sox. Excuse me there. Nick Morawski, former host here and host of Good Guys Talk Back. He'll be on Friday to discuss more about the White Sox upcoming manager search. And Elijah Evans of Future Sox and Just Baseball. He'll be on next Wednesday to discuss his recent trip to Charlotte and Kannapolis. So the minor league report will not be on Monday next week. It'll be on Wednesday and way back Wednesday. Next week, I'll search to, maybe I'll switch to either Throwback Tuesday or maybe Memory Monday. We'll see. All right, I'm going to throw up my hand and say this is being nitpicky, and I'm sounding like a broken record. I am giving you the caution right here. Parental advisory. I am being nitpicky, and I know I'm sounding like a broken record. But this roster move the Sox just made is sort of bothering me because it keeps representing the front office continually focusing on using veteran players rather than get an evaluation on younger players, especially in the bullpen. It's driving me nuts. But the Sox claimed reliever Enyel De Los Santos a few days ago off of waivers from the New York Yankees. Ironically, he was on waivers after the Sox roughed him up last Monday. So, hey, you get a guy cut. Why not come over to us? Now, that doesn't bother me. Taking a flyer on a 28-year-old bullpen arm doesn't bug me. Doesn't. Optioning Matt Foster, who just got back to the big leagues after Tommy John surgery, does. And I know Foster is 29, but he still has club control, and I'd rather see what he can do after surgery rather than keep John Brebbia. Yep, that is my broken record. I said it yesterday. I said it before I went on vacation. John Brebbia should be up out of here. Why is he still on this team? He has been struggling mightily, keeps giving up runs. You could keep Foster and get a look at De Los Santos if you just got rid of Brebbia. And you can think I'm cruel for wanting Brebbia to lose his job, but A, man is on a 1-year, $5.5 million deal with a club option for next season. So not only is he going to get his money if he gets cut, but I also think he gets the buyout. B, I have a feeling a contender will claim him or sign him thinking, hey, he can turn things around just in time for the stretch run. I mean, we all seen how White Sox pitchers thrive once they leave the White Sox. Heck, the Yankees picked up Tim Hill, for example, when the Sox designated him for assignment. A contender might say, that's a veteran arm. Let's see if he can help us in the stretch run. But there's just no reason to keep a lot of these veteran arms in the bullpen. You need one long reliever to pair up with Garrett Crochet the rest of the season, since he's just throwing 4 innings. And okay, maybe you want a mentor in the pen for any experienced arms, but you should get something better than John Brebbia. And you also have a ton of youth in the minors, or just guys who are just playing out probably better right now that you should use for the next 6 weeks as a free preview for building up your bullpen next season. This is a free this should be considered extra spring training. It really should. You should be using this time to look at as many of these young guys that you got at AA and AAA. And you got a lot of them. And you only got 5 rotation spots for, these guys. And you got 2 of the best left-handed pitching prospects who could be ready as soon as next year. So it's not like you have a ton of room in your starting rotation. So a lot of these young arms you got, you're either going to have to trade for hitting or use them in the bullpen. Cheap bullpen. Because remember, one of the things, and another broken record, one of the things that sunk the previous rebuild was investing those limited financial resources in bullpen arms. You should have a cheap bullpen that's effective. Look at the Milwaukee Brewers. Just saying. Also, I mentioned the Milwaukee Brewers, so drink. And adding De Los Santos, hey, he's one of those moves. But let's see what Foster has left, since he still has club control. I.e., he's going to be cheaper than Brebbia next year, because you're not exercising that team option. If you do, you're crazy. And let's see what Addison Coffey or Trey McGough or McGough can do. How about that? How about we see that? Instead of let's just keep bringing out Chad Kuhl. And that's what's been so frustrating about this season is the wasted time in a lost season. Everything from this point on should be about evaluating what younger players can do to see if they can help you in 2025 and maybe, I don't know, help the next competitive team that could be here as soon as 2027. Everything should be about those 2 windows, and yet the front office acts like, well, that's what spring training is for. Should be extra spring training right now. Use this time. And I get that the Sox should be looking for upgrades no matter what. They should be like, well, you know what? Just because, say, Addison Coffey comes up and pitches well, doesn't mean we're going to ignore, maybe adding a free agent on a $3 million one-year deal. Because they can be flipped at next year's deadline. I get that. But at the same time, you're going to have financial resources. You should be using those financial resources to maybe say, I don't know, upgrade second base or right field. And you could say, well, Dominic Fletcher, I called him a stud yesterday. Yes, I did. He's a defensive stud. But if you can find a guy who can hit better, sign him. And they should also get a better idea that, that's the other thing that's just frustrating because they should be using this time to get a better idea that maybe they don't have to sign as many veterans to prop up the bullpen next season. Maybe, for example, Sean Burke can be an effective reliever on the cheap who can get outs for the next couple of seasons. I don't know. Why don't we try that? Instead, Brebbia is going to get a chance to pitch again out of the pen at some point. Chris Flexen will likely get another start. Chad Kuhl and Touki Toussaint will probably back up Garrett Crochet, and more time is going to be wasted. And that should be the frustrating thing about this season. So much wasted time. Well, that wraps up this edition of Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen today. Now go check out the Locked On MLB podcast. Prepare for Fall Classic with Sully, who has it covered every single day. You can find the link to Locked On MLB in the description so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And feel free to leave comments about today's discussion regarding Michael Kopech looking great for the Dodgers, while Miguel Vargas struggles for the Sox, and it shows that the trade so far has been a bust. The Sox being a get-right team for the Giants, and the bad roster move the Sox made in the bullpen. You can leave them at the episode page on YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, at Todd J. Dub, or at Locked On Sox, or you can email me at LockedOnWhiteSox@gmail.com. Have a great day. I'll talk to you tomorrow.